can esoteric knowledge help you out of wage slavery? I guess in the other video the other day I didn't get too deep into it. Maybe I didn't explain really well what I thought, or I can just add something to it. Obviously, I didn't mean that no esoteric or occult knowledge can help you. Obviously it can. I was referring to the fact that a lot of that knowledge is too complicated or too convoluted or too complex to solve everyday's problem. I guess we have to also make a distinction between theories and teachings that are really philosophical or metaphysical compared to some other teachings that are more practical in nature. That's why I also made a video called or a video about esoteric pragmatism. Then obviously if you get paid to teach philosophy, that's gonna help in your everyday life. But I think the main point is what kind of esoteric or occult knowledge can help us live a better life or a more free life. For example, I like to study, ancient aliens and all those kind of things, but is it gonna help me in my daily life? I mean, you can say it can, because in the end we all want to know, where we come from and stuff like that. But our existence appears to be really material in a sort of way. Now there's a lot of debate about positive thinking, forward thinking. That's true, that's important, but at the end of the day we all know that when all the fluff gets taken away or gets separated from the reality, so to speak, we all need money, unless you can live by the bartering system, or you have your own homestead where you grow your food and whatnot, but still you probably need that money to develop it. Even you can go to India, you go to an ashram, they'll feed you for free most of the time. I've been there, you can do that, but after a while they'll probably start asking you for some money. And speaking of which, even a lot of these cultures that are supposedly more spiritual, a lot of the time, at least in modern times, if you go there, it's just like a lot of hustling. I want to talk about gurus or not be a gurus or whatnot. The reality is that we all need some sort of material means to live. Now, the debate is how much of it do we need and what kind of material needs do we need. It's different for everybody. Some people like to live really frugal and they're minimalists. Some other people prefer a more comfortable lifestyle. That's okay. The thing is, in our modern times, what kind of knowledge or secret knowledge or knowledge that's not available in the mainstream can help us to live a better life? And in my point of view, better life means more freedom, more health, more wealth, for me, my family, person around me, and all of that. Because lately there's this kind of message in the propaganda that like a happy community makes happy people. You have to think about a community, blah blah blah. But in my opinion, the subject needs kind of being turned upside down, meaning you cannot have a happy community if you don't have happy individuals. That would be like saying you have a well-built house, and then the material that you use to build a house, they will be kind of settle themselves in place. It's like saying you build a roof first, and that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like logical. So to have a happy community or like a thriving community, you have to have thriving individuals. So you cannot, take 10 people and magically sprinkle some dust upon them and everything works. But the individuals themselves, if they work on themselves, then they can build a thriving community. Because the sum of 10 thriving individuals, for example, is going to be like a thriving community comprised of 10 people. So to get back to the main point, what kind of knowledge can we use to live a better life? For example, all kind of knowledge that help us in the first place to take care of our mind, our body, and our soul, if you believe in the existence of soul. So any teachings that can help us in a certain way free our mind of all the garbage that we absorb every day. I mean, you can think this video that I'm making is garbage, so you can just stop it and not listen to it, and it's totally fine. In the end, you have to decide what is good for you. Obviously, the more we work on our intuition, the more we'll be inclined to sort of discern what's good information and what not. You get to a point when you can heighten your sixth sense, so to speak, or maybe you can have already like a natural talent to understand what BS and what not, but still will be your opinion, because in the end that's all about it. I mean, we can study all of our life, but in the end whatever we think it makes sense, it just makes sense for us, and it doesn't make sense for other people. I mean, we can see that in our daily life every day, so that goes without saying. Everything also that can help us with our body, so the food that you put into your body, drinks, if you have any kind of addiction, generally speaking, even according to a lot of ancient teachings, a vegetarian or somewhat vegan diet can help you. You can research on your own. Most of the times people who walk on a certain path are generally at least vegetarian. I mean, there's like the consumption of meat in some cases, but it's mostly for specific, personal problems or specific dietary needs. Obviously, not a doctor, so you do your own research, but that's important to take care of. I mean, there are many layers to build sort of a package for ourselves as individuals. First of all, if you think about it, when you wake up every day, the first thing that gets turned on from sleep is your mind. And actually your mind really never sleeps. Let's say a somewhat conscious mind. So then comes our body, and then our soul, if you see it on the most primitive level, starting from 1, 2, 3. So first of all, it's always taking care of what we think, what our vision is, what our thoughts are, and then it's also important to take care of what we eat, what we drink, and then anything that can feed our souls or destroy our souls. It depends. In more ancient times, society was different, although probably a lot of what we know isn't true. So we also think that society back then was like more primitive, more in contact with nature. That may be true, but also according to some other types of ancient scriptures, they had a more primitive society, for one thing. Maybe they had a lot of more advanced technology, for one other thing. That's why I always say it's important that you do your own research, because we always tend to believe whatever is more popular, that's like on the subconscious level. But then some people never dig into it, while some other people once they have the first, let's say, shockwave of information, they instantly think, is it like true? Is it not true? So obviously doing your own research as much as you can is always important, and also research the source of the information, if there is any other agenda behind it, any kind of information. In the end I believe it's a good idea if you decide what to put in your mind, in your body, or in your soul. You can take information from a lot of sources, from many sides, but in the end I think it makes sense that you decide what to do with it. Even if you go to a doctor or a more qualified professional, in my opinion, when it's something that has to do with you personally, you should always make your own final decision. You can make at least an educated guess, so to speak, but I would say it's never a good idea to believe in other people's 100%. How can this hidden knowledge help us sort of get out of this wage slave system or wage slavery? Now, first of all, we have to think if we're really slaves or not. I was talking to another person, we're discussing what's the difference between like slaves and serfs, for example. And in my opinion, even historically, slaves always tried to get out of their slavery, always try to get out of their slave condition, while like a serf a lot of times sort of enjoys his or her position as a serf, like a servant. And one of the main difference, somebody was saying that I don't remember, so I cannot credit, is that a slave tend to never punish themselves for whatever happened for what they do, while a serf actually self-punishes themselves even before the master finds out whatever happened. So that's kind of like a weird psychological situation. You can probably even see that in the workplace. A slave, maybe they're working, they make a mistake like everybody else, but then they're like, okay, I made a mistake, just like fix it. Ideally you take responsibility if you make a mistake, because it's normal, and that's it just ends right there. While a serf, sometimes they actually punish themselves for the mistakes. For example, they offer to pay for it, they offer to work longer hours or whatnot. Obviously, unless it's specified in your contract, it's normal when you work, stuff can happen. You can break stuff, other people break stuff, maybe the owner of your company breaks stuff. So in a regular mutual agreement, it's pretty much implied that stuff can happen. And that's also like one of the main problems, is that a lot of people, when they go to work or they work for somebody else, even if it's just a gig or whatnot, they immediately think that the owner is sort of doing them a favor, giving them a job, which can be understandable in a sort of way, because we all need money. So this person is providing you with a job, so automatically he's providing you with money. But one of the most important thing, in my opinion, is that we are giving our time. That is probably the most precious thing that we have. So every time you're in a sort of like contract where you're giving something to get something back, or any exchange, you really have to think what it is that you are giving and what it is that you are taking. We also have to think that when we go to work, a lot of people, they think that they're just getting a job, but in reality they're not, meaning that you're like selling yourself, because like some people said, that everything is sales, and in the end it's true. You're selling yourself, you're selling them the idea that you're gonna be a good employee, and they're buying on the idea that you're gonna be a good employee, so that's why they pay you. We're like trying to sell our own image, our own personality, our own skills. We're trying to sell the fact that we're like better than the next person. That's why everything is sales. And now maybe you're saying, okay, but how can this, knowledge help us having a better life? Like I said before, in my opinion, there are teachings that are more practical in nature. So anything that helps you how to develop your intuition more, how to understand others, how to understand psychology of other people is gonna help us. Even eating the proper food and proper drinks is gonna keep our body cleaner. And so as a consequence, all of our systems are gonna be cleaner. It goes without saying. It's like logical. They say garbage in, garbage out. And that works for everything. And anything, in my opinion, that helps you have a cleaner soul. And with that, I mean, the more you make an effort to have like a genuine disposition and more genuine attitude, what generally speaking we consider to be like a good person. That doesn't mean you have to be weak or people have to take advantage of you. So it makes sense that you try to improve yourself first, then help other people improve if they want to, or if they ask you, then you can decide if you want to take that position helping other people. And then as a consequence, a union of thriving people is going to create a thriving community. I mean, it's pretty logical. I mean, there are a lot of things that are pretty logical or that make sense if we examine the simplicity of it, but for some kind of reason they seem like the most complex, because in a certain way, I believe, at least in my opinion, most of the time truth is really brutal. There's even like a extreme metal band called Brutal Truth. I don't know if you're into that kind of stuff, which is kind of funny. Because in the end, a lot of stuff is like simple. I think we tend to overcomplicate things sometimes, because probably our mind is always working. So if there's nothing to solve or nothing so complicated, we think that we're not doing anything. And I think a part of it is also like this like modern system, or at least if you want to say this like Western, world where we live in, or at least where I am right now. That's historically being considered the West. So, if you're not breaking your back or moving stuff or doing something, people think that you're not doing anything. And there are like slackers, that's okay, but also there's people who make millions of dollars or euros thanks to their ideas. But the person who makes $1,000 or 1,000 euros a month moving boxes, they see a person sitting on a chair behind a desk and they're thinking they're not doing anything, which is not the case a lot of times, because not all jobs are the same. But for whatever reason, we have this idea that you always have to do something. If you're not doing something, or at least there's something that the majority of people think is like you're not doing anything. Even today with the technology that we have, there's still a lot of people who think that if you're working on a computer, you're not doing anything, you're not really working. Not an expert, but it's a sort of a psychological thing that I don't know, maybe comes from the time where people were all farmers, and that obviously they all had to do a lot of manual labor. So there's still this kind of idea lingering in the background. And I don't understand why, because I don't know. Majority of people, they think that they're getting, like the gold medal for, at the Work Olympics if they break their back, but it doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, in theory, makes more sense when you have more freedom for yourself and your family, and you have enough means to sustain yourself and your family. But everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their vision. There's a lot of philosophical theories, but in the end, we live in this sort of material plane. So we all know that if you have more money, you have more choices. The point is that we, in a sort of way, we have to build like stronger minds, and we have to be aware of the position we are in the first place, and then realizing that we may or we may not ever succeed. And I think that's probably the main point that blocks a lot of people for doing anything, because to get out of a system you have to invest a lot. You have to invest time, you have to invest money, you have to keep studying, and you have to sort of take away a lot of your time from other things, and a lot of people are not willing to do that. It's understandable because it's hard. I mean, it's a pain to do all of this, especially if you have a comfortable life in the system. But still, the fact that the system is good or not is still our own idea. A lot of people, they want to change the world or whatnot, but the point is, the way you want to change it is still your idea. It's not the absolute truth that the way you want to change it is going to be better or worse. It's still your idea that solution is the best. So no, it's a kind of like catch-22, but if you think about it, it makes sense, at least in my opinion. Still, you see, it's my idea. So I think in the end it all boils down to the fact that we have to rely on those teachings that help us to control our mind, our body, and our soul. And control, I mean to be in a certain state that we are somewhat always conscious of what's going on, which obviously is not easy. Controlling our mind is one of the hardest things there is, and controlling our body is a little easier because pretty much you have to take care of what you eat and what you drink. And then obviously controlling your soul, it's a whole different story. That could be something that you're born with, but still something that you can work on. So I guess my idea would be the more we go deeper within ourselves, better we can find strategies to thrive and prosper.